Shabbat Shalom, everyone. With your permission, I'd like to dive right in this morning. Those of you who have learned with me at Timely Torah know that my biggest lament is that we section off a half hour of learning rather than the 6 or so hours that we really need to dive into the text. And all the more so for a Shabbat sermon where we are tasked to uncover some profound truths together in a 10-15 minute window. So all of that is to say the time is of the essence, so let's jump right in. I want to talk this morning about one of the most iconic and consequential moments in all of Torah. Yaakov's midnight wrestling as he prepares to reunite with his brother Esau. This reunion which is so filled with uncertainty and loaded with tension and anxiety. Now, often when a rabbi or a Jewish scholar or educator speaks on this narrative moment, they focus on one particular question. Who is Yaakov wrestling? Is it an angel? Is it Esau? Is it God? Is it some kind of combination of all of these? The wrestling of Jacob and Esau's spirits or essences before their physical confrontation the next day? This is the question. But here's why I want to jump right in this morning. I think it's the wrong question. It's an interesting question, but it distracts from what I believe is the real focus of this particular story, which is, and this is the chiddush here, this is the important theological nugget that is built into the text, that Yaakov is willing to wrestle at all. Now, what do I mean by that? If we rewind and take a look at Yaakov's story up to this point, we see that his story is built on deception, a manipulation. He takes advantage of his brother Esau's hunger and takes his birthright from him. He deceives his father Isaac in order to receive the blessing of the firstborn. And his 20 years with Lavan and the departure therefrom is filled with all kinds of meshugas. Everyone is cheating everyone. It's a mess. But here is this incredible moment in the Torah where Yaakov prepares to meet his brother. And he does so in a very typical Yaakov way. He makes a plan. He prepares for all kinds of possible outcomes, and he divides up his family into sections so that if chas v'chalila, if Esau intends to kill him, at least some part of his family and his possessions will be saved. That sounds like Jacob. That's the Jacob that we know. But God throws a wrench into the whole Yaakov machine. Separated from everyone, left alone on this elevated plateau, where Yaakov himself felt the presence of God, everything is turned upside down. Everything. Because in the middle of the night, an ish, a person, a figure, confronts Yaakov and holds him in place, preventing him from moving, taking away all preparation, all of the planning, everything that Yaakov had depended on for a successful encounter in the morning, and challenges him in a way that he has never experienced in his life. And I imagine here, the conversation is taking place without any words, is in its essence a throwing down of the gauntlet before Yaakov. With this ish, this figure saying, you are willing to cheat, you are willing to lie, you are willing to trick and deceive. Are you willing to fight? Are you willing to strip away all of the games, all of the illusions, and confront your destiny head on? As you. As who you are. Alone and vulnerable. And Yaakov's answer is yes. And he fights. And he strips away all of the narrative that was. He lets go of the past, and he wrestles. And here's the most important part. As he wrestles, he's injured. This Ish, this figure, realizing that Yaakov has risen to the challenge and will not release him, strikes him in the hip, seemingly dislocating his leg from his hip socket, and still Jacob doesn't let go. And we can imagine this moment, right? This incredibly dramatic moment where Jacob, tears in his eyes, his body charged with pain, Jacob turns to the figure and says, "No, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me." Who is this Ish? Who is this midnight wrestler? I don't think it matters, because it doesn't change the outcome. This outcome, which is by its nature transformational. And at least according to the text, it seems like that transformation is immediately perceptible to everyone. To the Ish, to Yaakov himself, to his family, to Esau. Yaakov is changed. Which changes the way that we look at the story, because if Yaakov is changed, he's not given a new name. He has been transformed into a new person entirely. He is a new identity. He is Yisrael. He is the one who is willing to wrestle. And because Torah means instruction, that's its literal translation, instruction, we know that this story is meant not to just provide us with some entertainment and some good plot twists. This story, this transformational wrestling match, is meant to instruct us, to teach us something valuable. And I believe that's exactly what it's doing. Because built into this message is what I consider to be one of the central messages of our tradition, of Judaism as a theology and as a philosophy. And it's one that we, as adults, need to hear. I'm not so worried about the Yeladim. The children are much better at this than we are. As we grow older, we become more and more averse to risk. We approach everything with more caution, more hesitancy, more skepticism, which has benefits. That's not a bad thing. We can't live our lives with unchecked impetuosity and alacrity, because we have responsibilities. We have to be wise, we have to be smart, we have to be safe sometimes. We have people to look after, needs that need to be met. But far too often we extend our caution and our wall of protection and security to realms of our lives where they aren't meant to be. At least not to the degree where we keep them. And specifically, namely, I'm talking here about our relationships. Our relationships with our partners, our friends, our family members, our neighbors, our relationship with God and with the mystery of the divine, and our relationship with ourselves. And this is what we do. We erect this wall of safety and stability for a very obvious and logical reason. We don't want to get hurt. Because there's a very possible and maybe even likely risk that being vulnerable and present and holding on with all of our emotional and spiritual might to someone else, to God, or to our own feelings and our own emotions can bring with it very real and very intense pain. But what Yaakov's story is telling us is that it's worth it. More than that, it's the point. It's the point of all of this. That ultimately, at the end of the day, life isn't about birthrights and inheritances. It's not about things and wages. It's about wrestling. It's about stripping away from our hearts the fortifications we've worked so hard for so long to build, and to encounter one another, encounter God, and encounter ourselves with honesty, with openness, and with love, knowing knowing that leaving our hearts vulnerable comes with the potential, maybe even the likelihood, that we may get hurt, and to do it anyway. Because when we let go of all of that other stuff, when we recognize what truly matters, and when we recognize that what truly matters is this, is us in relationship to one another, it is nothing short of transformational. It transforms us. It puts us right where we are supposed to be, so that we can journey together, bruised and battered, limping and hobbling, to something good, to something holy and valuable beyond measure. Who's Yaakov wrestling with? It doesn't matter. It's that he wrestled in the first place. He didn't have to. He might not even have been expected to. But he did. And he took a beating. But he didn't let go. He held on. And because he did, he was forever changed. That, my friends, is our Torah. That story is there for us. That's its purpose. That's what it's there for. Let's embrace it. Let's take a look at the things around us that truly matter, the people around us that truly matter, and then let's wrestle with them, no matter how much it hurts, and let's not let go until each and every one of us is blessed. Shabbat shalom.